I'm sure most people, especially that watch my videos, have heard pretty much every aspect of what occurred on this day. As many of you know, I was actually going to sign my papers to join the military the morning of 9/11. And I was still a little nervous. I wasn't sure if I was going to join. And then when this occurred, I made my decision. There was no more question. I was going. So I joined a few weeks later. But I'm going to tell you a story that most people don't know about. Most of us have heard the normal stuff, this stuff that's obvious silliness, like absolutely impossible. We all know this. Like a bird would do this to a plane, but yet a building wouldn't. Yeah, we got it. But this picture actually is important. This Raytheon picture, Global Hawk. I'm going to start around there. Alright. This is the initial picture of the Pentagon. The initial hole. Until they took it down. Here's a very interesting picture that's going to go with this too. On September 11th, there were some vehicles missing from this complex. Okay. Now let's get into the information. Alright, so I'm sure everybody knows who this is. Rudy Giuliani. Obviously, I did not write this, and I cannot say who wrote this. Our CS-21 team has discovered sabotage testing contractor AMEC gave Iraqi agent Ramzi Youssef an alibi for mass murder at Ground Zero by placing him in a supermax jail cell beside Unabomber Ted Kaczynski, while giving Rudy Giuliani the excuse of a cancer scare to spray the World Trade Center steel with Iraqi rocket fuel, camouflaged by non-asbestos insulation. We note that AMEC conducted sabotage tests at Ground Zero before 9/11 attack and won contracts from Mayor Giuliani and the CAI, the Carlyle Group. I'm sure we've all heard about that. Privatized equity to take away the evidence of a murder for hire, arson, and asbestos-related life insurance frauds at the World Trade Center. Hours after the attack, AMEC mobilized 300 workers, 20 pieces of heavy equipment, and a fleet of trucks. At the Pentagon before, during, and after the attack, just finished a project, steel reinforcing beams bolted together, continuous unit walls lined with strong fibrous materials, aluminothermic rocket fuel, incendiaries. AMEC responded within minutes by rescuing survivors. Emergency communications systems established by AMEC indoor air quality assessments following the collapse of the World Trade Center towers. Quantified indoor airborne asbestos fibers, particulate, PM 2.5, PM 10, and ultrafines. Negotiation with building owner and insurance carriers, defining contaminated risk communications to employees, management of criminal justice facilities, high-rise inner-city jails, criminal justice centers, rural campus size, instructions, Ramsey Youssef. AMEC sabotage analysis. Analyze. Okay. So guided by the alibi or perceived value of contingent pecuniary rewards implied or defined under U.S. Code Title 18, Racketeering, Section 1958, we have named Ramsey Youssef, Rudy Giuliani, and various private. Okay, this is just part of it. But where was he going? Where the heck was he going? This was his alibi. He just went running around on the streets. He was supposed to be in, the communications center. Of course, most of us know that nobody was in there except two people that had no idea what was going on, and they were trying to save people. Here's another manufactured alibi. Why the hell would let me just read it. Leaders creating their alibis when massive crimes are being committed at their behest or under their supervision. It's called orchestration. G.W. Bush, was he really in Florida? Or was the picture taken in some remote location to give us all the impression that the president was away from the scene attacks on the most tragic and important day in modern day American history? We don't know if he was in Florida. But could have been. So, yeah, we have Donald Rumsfeld running around the Pentagon grounds like a goofball. And then we have, George W. right here at supposedly Florida. A book deliberately held upside down. He looks confident and fearless, yes, because he just gave the orders. This is possible. And they were being carried out effectively and in complete accordance with his Defense Secretary, NSA Chief, and Secretary of State, Donald Rumsfeld. Rumsfeld was seen picking up one of the props at the Pentagon lawn instead of trying to get in touch with President Bush, or vice versa. I think we can consider it all sanity, that all the leaders in power were absolutely in charge of each of these events and just wanted us, the sheeple, to believe that we were not. And for this, each of them needed a publicly seen video or live telecast for where they all were during the course of the 4 attacks. How do we even know where they were on the attacks? From the mainstream media footage? Doubt it. Okay, let's go to the information here. Well, I guess I can go ahead and show you these pictures, and then I'll start with the information. So this was found I'll show y'all that later. There's a lot that goes into that. Essentially showing that there was some type of nuclear or some type of device underneath the towers or inside the towers, whatever. I think this is it right here. Alright. So the official Osama bin Laden story, bullshit story. Do you believe the official version of the Osama bin Laden killing story? Besides this, I have a different theory on 9/11 too. The entire operation involving 4 planes on 9/11 was a concerted effort involving several agencies. If the investigation was handed over to a decent and honest cop with a great track record, then the first thing he or she would do will go after 3 things. Who all benefited monetarily during the 9/11 attacks? Who all were complacent in their duties to protect the various airports from where these aircrafts flew out of or into, which were the corporations that suddenly became much more powerful than ever before. So I dug deeper into the passenger list and found several anomalies in the names of the folks who were declared dead. But those people are still living. Some names of the people who had died long before 9/11. That's very odd. Then I found out that one particular company lost many of its employees, and chiefly their vice president, for their infamous Global Hawk project, that are now exclusively busy making lethal drones. The company is Raytheon. They lost plenty of folks in the World Trade Center attacks, the plane that crashed into the Pentagon, and also the one at Shanksville, Pennsylvania. One of the dead employees of Raytheon was vice president of the Global Hawk project. Now, it made me curious enough to dig deeper, and I found out Raytheon climbed up and up in its profiteering ever since 9/11 had happened. Raytheon Corporation is an American defense contractor, an industrial corporation with core manufacturing concentrations in weapons and military and commercial electronics. It was previously involved in corporate and special mission aircraft until early 2007. Raytheon is the world's largest producer of guided missiles. Established in 1922, the company reincorporated in 1928 and adopted its present name in 1959. The company has around 72,000 employees worldwide and an annual revenue of $25 billion. All right. Raytheon headquarters was moved from Lexington, Massachusetts to Waltham, Massachusetts on October 27, 2003. The company was previously headquartered in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Blah, blah, blah. Not really important. But so did another group so there was another group that was owned by none other than Warren Buffett, the world's richest man inside America. But we have some problems for these oligarchs. My point is being proven time and time again. With these recent terror attacks and such, you see, a war on terror can be extended to any country and for any length of time. And that was U.S. and allies' goal, that they co-created a fictitious or phantom enemy that they called radical Islamists. No matter how peaceful the world will be, there would be one odd event that would rattle the peace, and immediately the word jihad or radical Islamic, like terror, whatever group will flash across every TV channel. The keywords like terror, jihad, radical Islamic groups, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, bombing, suicide bomber, missile strike, Navy SEALs, etc. pushes up the TRP ratings of every channel, and the very people who these morons call terrorists are actually shareholders in these TV channels. So they also benefit. How interesting is that? It is, in the end, a money swindling machine. Sheikh bin Talal in Saudi Arabia is one of the billionaires of the world. Ask him directly, where does he invest his money into? How does he get all his money back, and from where? He invests in AOL, Time Warner, News Corp, CNN, and such. The greatest connection that I found was the central theme of all events of international significance between the U.S. and other countries. This was use and stealing of software called Promise. Promise was used by folks on the fateful day of 9/11, as well as during the Iran Gate scandal, Watergate scandal, Lewinsky scandal, all the put options on 9/11 for American Airlines. Silverstein Properties, Sullivan Brothers Building, and also by BCCI, Bin Laden Construction Company. The Echelon project also uses Promise for data collection from every single electronic communication and is stored in supercomputers in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, France, England, Finland, Switzerland, and Sweden, apart from the US. Problems with the oligarchs, Part 2. Since the Washington Post claimed in early November 2005 that the United States was operating hidden prisons in Europe, the Swiss media has gone full bore in identifying USG sins, real and imagined. Any news on Guantanamo or Abu Ghraib is guaranteed front page treatment, whereas Al-Qaeda attacks are regulated to the back pages. Of particular concern is the issue over the flights by the alleged CIA charter planes. Italian prosecutors allege that U.S. military jet traversed Swiss airspace on the day of the Milan Cirque. Abu Ammar was kidnapped. Interesting. The Swiss government has repeatedly asked the USG to explain the flight and the 4 charter planes landing at the Geneva airport. Washington has yet to respond. I'm just stunned to see that neither the Scandinavians nor the Saudis have ever faced any kind of financial burden or any type of terror attack. Weird. I have never heard that Switzerland had ever faced such things, nor has Sweden, Finland, Austria, Belgium, Saudi Arabia, main culprits, and of course England, Scotland, Italy, Ireland, and France. Y'all remember this was written years ago. Oh, where are they? Sorry, I don't have this anymore. Part 4. Okay, so does that tell us that they are impenetrable? So efficient? So super rich that nothing can ever touch them? They keep funding these culprits to keep the other countries perpetually fighting amongst each other. What is clearly laughable about these situations, these 3 religions segments quarreling over one or the other for reasons of being superior to one or the other, all really have the same religious roots. The question to ask would be, why do these 3 keep quarreling? That too over a piece of land, oil, or money. So someone might have very cleverly divided them at some point. Maybe Alexander or Plato or someone else. With a little in-depth research on Promise software, I figured out that the whole thing is about international bankers ruling the world's government with this particular software, which was CIA and US Intel's creation, and a man named Michael Riccacciuto. If you have been watching me for a long time, you know this name. You have heard this name on multiple occasions because this man is tied to the current psychological operation called QAnon. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that right now. He sold it to the Mujahideen group. This was before the man or the character named Osama bin Laden was ever created. Everything from 1979 onwards has been scripted. Who did it and for what purpose? They created a clandestine system via which they have access to a slush fund operation from war zones. Oops. Hence, they need to have perpetual war going on in one place or the other, and presently the balance of this fund is $27.5 trillion. This was back in 2005, I believe, so I'm not sure how much it is now. The American government borrows from this this fund, which is nothing but the taxpayers' money and a bunch of oafs. They tell the citizens that the money is being borrowed from unknown lenders to whom we owe interest between 3 and 7% apart from principal. So whenever the U.S. or any other government says we have to increase the debt ceiling, it means they have exceeded their limits on the bonds that protect this particular fund, which would, at the rate of borrowing by U.S. and other allies, exhaust this within 14 years. So they created a software that counters this pro-Osama bin Laden of 14 years of interest on principal by creating spider bots and regulates the world's economic stock exchanges at will, and it regulates at a nanosecond level. It was the same software that was in play on 9/11, particularly for Larry Silverstein. The World Bank, IMF, PTEC software, Demolition Inc., FEMA, American Airlines, and United put options. Problems for oligarchs. 5. The person named Osama bin Laden never left Yemen. Not in his life. There is no single proof that he ever traveled outside of Yemen and Saudi Arabia. Imagine this. If you were the CIA, they can even today get us actual passports used by someone like Osama bin Laden, if it were all true, right? You would think. You would think. Why haven't we ever seen that? Why have we never seen Osama bin Laden's passport? Weird. They can even doctor one. Dude, you just put some port stamps on it. They haven't even done that. But that would have been smart on their part. They're not so smart. And they think we're so stupid. His place and identity was taken over by a Turkey-born CIA asset named Tim Osman. Now, let's not get confused. Tim Osman is not Osama bin Laden. This is just part of the story. So it gets a little confusing. So the people that say Tim Osman is Osama bin Laden, you're not exactly right. But it's not your fault. That's what's been going around. Osman was trained in militant arms and guerrilla warfare in Algeria, not in Yemen or Pakistan or even Afghanistan. While Tim Osman was getting the Stinger missiles from Zabrinski, I can't even say that. Isn't that Zabrinski? A new name was emerging from the U.S. NATO alliance to take note of an advantage to Osama bin Laden. Agent Osman was included in the team of elite secret agents commissioned by Ronald Reagan to craft the decisive downfall of the only resistance for U.S. supremacy, i.e., breaking of the USSR. They borrowed $250 billion from the Treasury in the 1980s when Ronald Reagan was president and bought off all the Soviet Union's own rupees. Oh my God, I'm stupid. No, I'm not stupid. Anyway, from the market to economically destabilize Russia. And they succeeded in it. But they couldn't park this fund inside the U.S., so they found a little holding construction company in China run by none other than the Laden family, the largest shareholders of BCCI Bank in Beijing. This slush fund was given a name, UNICEF. I'm sure we've all heard of that, which was recently being operated by none other than Hillary, that person. So the frozen rubles were all converted into dollars and left in China in a bank owned by the Bin Laden family called BCCI, which supported Abu Nadal's PLO. So this fund was being maintained by 10 agents. This is very, very important. This to take it to Osama. The Osama story, okay? It's being maintained by 10 agents spread around the whole world. Each one had a function. Like if anyone ever got a hold of, a couple of them, they'd still have the other ones out there. Ambassador Liam Wanta, who was posted in Somalia and Sudan for 2 terms, was the chief of this entire operation. And it was all under a direct control of a man we will hear a lot of in the 2 terms of Obama. If he wins the second term, see, this was written a while back. Yes, it is Leon Panetta. Where did he come from all of a sudden? They couldn't operate or move these funds unless they had a retinal scan and fingerprints of each member to match up as their signature. So instead of a signature or something, they needed their actual retina scan and fingerprints. Hence, this is what the Osama bin Laden raid was. It was to get the scan of this person that they told the Navy SEALs was Osama bin Laden. Okay, I kind of just gave a lot of away. These guys were led by Emil Wanta. You know, he's talking now, and he's saying that it was somebody else, so he might not have been completely overseeing all of it. But that's his story. I'm sure he would say that. Ex-ambassador to Sudan and those countries. He had masterminded the fall of the Soviet Union, and there was a Chinese guy who helped him maintain this slush fund inside Beijing. Then Agent Osman, who traveled to the U.S. from Turkey on a Turkish passport, met a guy named Kofor Black, who created the Blackwater armies, along with Eric Prince. Blackwater is a contractor company that supplies men and women and armor for those 2 major wars being fought by the Allies in Iraq and Afghanistan. This became the funnel system for major bankers such as J.P. Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, the IMF, World Bank, and others to manipulate trillions of dollars in the name of ethnic cleansing. In not just these 2 countries, but all over the Arab world. The Skull and Bones group actually decides who would be the next president. So Bush Sr. wanted the presidency. He approached the Chinese CIA, Raoul Olberg, and East German, another gentleman named Ted Gunderson, former FBI special agent, and the Promise Software program expert Michael Riconchuto were all operatives of this elite team. This team met at the Hilton Hotel in Sherman Oaks, Hollywood, California in 1986 and were given a task. Foremost of their jobs was to somehow bring about the downfall of the powerful Soviet Union by doing something covertly and to weaken its economic status of the world. Meanwhile, Carlos the Jackal had become a pain in the butt for the French DST. Kofor Black, Gary Schroen, and Agent Mitchell, Billy Wall, and Bill Casey, all CIA FBI agents, had helped the French DST capture the Jackal in Sudan. Here I would like to show you how cynical it is. When our governments first create an enemy, a very dreaded enemy by everyone, and is their more elusive, professional, excellent marksmen, not easily identifiable, masters of disguise, experts, and then suddenly the same person turns out to be a timid hiding in a sewage manhole or in a cave, you know, bundled in a sack or hides in a compound watching porn, right? Sure. What a sudden change. And then we believe it, and we believe it, without ever questioning it. Isn't that ironic to think about? Yeah. So, in Sudan, 1987, this is where the entire Osama bin Laden story was scripted. An observation, the original Osama bin Laden has a concave, like a more square jaw, and a more rounded jaw, and Tim Osman has a square jaw. In all probabilities, he is I can't say that word, because Timothy is a very Jewish name. When Bush Sr. came to know about this. He wanted to know how large that Wanta fund was. And it was a staggering $2.75 trillion. Uh-oh, I'm missing a whole dang page. Well, this is getting long. Maybe I should do this, like, cut it in half. I'm sure people are bored. Unfortunately, that's how people are these days. They get bored and call you crazy and stuff. Let's show some other stuff that's pretty interesting. These are interesting pictures. I'll read the rest later. But these are important too. See the jaw structure? Not Osama bin Laden. Not Osama bin Laden. During the Panetta dinner party in early November, California restaurateur Ted Ballinstry made good on his bet. Oh, I have to go back on the bet part because you have to know about the bet. I guess just, there's so much more to this story of what happened that day that this picture was taken September 12th of Muhammad Atta. Strange indeed. But the very idea of this even occurring the way that they tell us, look, this is Promise software. This is all the Promise software information that I have. I have a lot more, but that stuff I can share. It's just outrageous, to say the least. Honestly, it's just outrageous to still believe that this happened the way that, oh crap, I have the videos. Ugh. Look, Osama bin Laden and Condoleezza Rice? That's weird. Word. They think we're so stupid because apparently so many of us are. Oh, here we go. I know it was somewhere. These are just regular plane crashes, so we want to show how plane crashes actually happen and what happens to these planes. They don't just disappear. Like we were supposedly told. Even something like this, it just, they don't disappear. They just don't. What do we have here?
But now to that ABC News exclusive and that extraordinary footage inside the plane crash.
Not important.
outside the classroom waiting to go in, and I saw an airplane hit the tower. The TV was obviously on, and
Weird. How did
I
you see
used
that?
to fly myself, and I said, "There's one terrible pilot," and it said it must have been a horrible accident.
So how did he see the first plane in the tower?
Lined up.
For those that don't know, okay, so what I was getting to was the incident of the fake Osama bin Laden situation. This all ties in. And so they had the 31 killed that were in the Osama bin Laden raid, except O'Neill that goes around on speaking tours. I don't know.
31 lost today. "31 souls in uniform. 31 sacrificed today. 31 unwanted visits. 31 friends and children. 31 empty seats. 31 lost in the desert heat. Why was it necessary? This group paid the price. So many unanswered questions. They never got in the fight. Grieving families. 31 remembered friends. 31 boots and rifles. 'Lined up in the sand. Why was it necessary? This group paid the price. So many unanswered questions. They never got in the fight. night. There's 31 new markers in Arlington tonight.
While everybody is remembering those that were lost in the towers, which I want everybody to, of course, I want you to also remember the ones who joined military to bring down these terrorists. And they were lost. Y'all have a good day.